Yo, 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 welcome on in. This is episode 3 of our Berserk PodPlay, a podcast combined with a Let's Play. We are all Berserk fans here. Today we are joined, as always, with Mullet Wesker and also special guest Professor Jam. Say hello, guys.
Hello, everybody.
Hey there.
You can find these guys at twitch.tv/mulletwesker and twitch.tv/Professor Jam. Today, we're going to be talking about our top 3 favorite fights of the series. And, few warnings, as always. Spoilers. It's just going to happen. So be ready for
Absolutely massive spoilers.
Yep, constant. just giant spoilers everywhere.
I mean, I picked my 3 favorite from the first panel, actually. So
Oh,
that was
really?
God.
friendly.
When he fought Puck. Yeah, that one. When he first met Puck, that fight.
And he just swats him like a fly.
Yeah.
Is that really a fight if the opponent doesn't even get a chance to attack?
Those are the best
One-sided
fights.
fight. But the other warning, I just got my vaccine shot today, so I might be a little sleepy. We'll see how that goes. And also, Mullet's dog was having things, so that might cause an issue, but probably not.
I might need to just disappear, but we should be okay.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but figured I'd give you the warning. We are going to start at Battle of Doldry in the game, because we ended the last episode like in the middle of that, so we're just going to start it over. But alright guys, let's do this.
So who's going first?
You.
Oh, all right. That's, you know what? This is perfect actually, because one of my 3 fights I picked is in the Battle of Doldry. Not the whole battle itself, but I just really enjoy the fight between Guts and, if I'm saying this right, the purple Rhino Knight Commander. Is that his name
Yeah.
or title?
What is his his name? That's his title.
Is it Boscan?
Boscan.
Yeah, something like that. And well, I like the fight just because Guts gets unseated from his horse, and because the other guy is a fully armored knight with like a pole arm on a horse, Guts is like, oh god, he doesn't have an advantage anymore in speed or, you know, like verticality, I guess.
Yeah.
And the two go back and forth for a little while, and depending on where you watch this fight, it goes differently. It goes differently in the movies, but I'm thinking in the manga and the original 97 show, the two of them duke it out for a bit, and Guts' sword ends up breaking and shattering.
That was the best one. Best version, in my opinion.
Right. Oh, yeah. Agreed. And, you know, when you're watching the show for the first time, you may not even think, you know, oh, is that sword ever going to break? Like, he hits a lot of shit with that. So his sword breaks, he pulls out a little dagger, and there's even a moment where, like, it gets quiet, and you can hear Guts think to himself, and he's like, I'm fucked. There's nothing I can do against this guy. I can't deflect his attacks. I can't outrun his horse. What do I do? And so I like it just because of that tension. It shows that Guts is vulnerable from time to time, because he's pretty damn invincible usually. And I like how it ends in that Zod essentially has to step in, and he just chucks his sword down to Guts' feet, and Guts doesn't even have a second to look up and see where it came from. He just like rolls forward, grabs it, deflects an attack, and then the fight continues, and he ends up winning.
That is one badass fight. I can agree with that. Definitely that version where his sword breaks, because that was also after the 100-man fight, which is how they explain the sword breaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't get it like retempered or tended to after he killed 100 guys in armor.
Right. And it was that was a great fight. Top notch.
Mm-hmm. But I like it so much because of the character defining stuff. It shows that Zod is not just some, you know, mad monster that wants to kill. He has some kind of respect for Guts, and he wants to see Guts live long enough to at least fight him again one day.
Well, it also might say that Zod was even working for the God Hand at that point, because Guts needed to survive for the sacrifice.
That, you know what? I never even considered that. I always saw it as a more selfish thing on Zod's behalf, because he's like, this is the only guy that's given me any kind of excitement in battle in 300 years. I can't just let him go out like this.
Right.
I gotta save him.
Right. So yeah, that's my first one. Who's next?
Go ahead, Jam.
All right. I don't know if I have quite as a extensive recall of one of my favorite fights, but when Serpico and Guts fight, I really enjoyed it, and kind of for similar reasons as your earlier fight, Mullet, where it felt like there were actual stakes. Because like when I'm watching Guts fight, I assume like he's gonna live. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
So when I'm watching him and Serpico go toe to toe, I was like, okay, Guts might get banged up. This is a really good fight. He's got an opponent that's like thinking strategically. Like he picked a location where Guts can't swing his sword like crazy and just cleave the whole room in half. But I was still worried. I was like, Guts is going to be fine in this fight. He might like get cut up. One of my favorite characters might just be in like 3 different pieces by the end of this. So what I like in my fights is like a sense of like there are stakes. And at the end of the day, I know Guts is going to be fine. But when I see Guts fighting somebody that like I find interesting, or I think, oh, this is a cool character, it sure would suck if he got cut in half.
Yeah. Anytime you see them go up against Guts, you're like, well, I guess I should stop liking them now.
Yeah, I might as well just cut ties. So when he and Serpico squared off, it was like, okay, cool. I'm seeing a character who can go toe-to-toe with Guts, probably not beat him, but hold their own, which you mentioned earlier. Guts always seems like he's invincible. And so it was just refreshing to see somebody who isn't built like a refrigerator fighting him and doing all right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing about both your guys' thing, is they're humans, not apostles. And humans are going toe-to-toe with Guts and putting his money where his mouth is, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And to Jam's credit in that fight, that is a human fighting Guts post-eclipse, when Guts is a fucking powerhouse of death.
Yeah, he has
You know,
like
way
5
stronger
shoulders,
than his
20 pecs.
Right, way
pack.
stronger than his golden age self.
Yeah, like at any moment, Guts can, my arm's a cannon now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fancy footwork, but you probably weren't expecting me to actually be a piece of artillery.
For me to be a piece of artillery. I like it.
Now, which Serpico fight was your favorite? The first or second?
Oh my gosh, you're
Is the
making me
first one where they fight on the edge of the cliff?
Yeah, I'll refresh you. The first one, they were fighting on the edge of the cliff, and Guts could not use his sword because they're literally on an edge, but Serpico, with his small sword, could use it. And that ends with Guts grabbing his sword. Like, it stabs his face, cuts his face a little, but he grabs it with his metal arm. And then the second fight is in that room with all the corridors. And there was some history to that room, I can't remember. But, yeah, basically Guts, if he could use his sword, but he had to swing through, like, 2 or 3 pillars each time.
Was that the one where he, like, collapses some shit?
I think he
Probably
brings down the ceiling to get an upper hand on Serpico.
Yeah,
or
the second one.
Something.
Yeah, the second one. Although I enjoyed both of them. Both of them, I was like, my boy's gonna die.
Well, in the first one, Serpico was a new character, so it's like you didn't really know who the hell this guy was, if he was enemy or foe. But the second one was definitely cool, because that's just a cool strategy against Guts, too, that I personally never would have thought of.
It reminds me of the Dreamcast game, where if you swing your weapon against the wall, it just clips and goes boing, and it's like, oh, bitch.
That Dark Souls 1 mechanics.
Oh my
Something
God.
like that.
So, I guess we'll move on to my third favorite fight, which would be, I think it would have to be the Berserker armor, when he first gets the Berserker armor. Because that was
when he fights Grundeld, or whatever his name is.
Grundel, and then like whatever. It was like the whole cavalry army But yeah, the main fight was against Grundle, whatever. Because first off, Grundle is a super cool apostle. He's like up there with Zod, where he kind of, you know, he's not really an evil person per se. But he is an apostle.
Yeah. Do you become an apostle and not be an evil person?
Yeah, I know. For lack of a better word, you know, there's like some.
He's more complicated than I just want to kill and eat humans.
Yeah, exactly. But that fight is just so much going on, and I mean, seeing the Berserker armor in action for the first time, it's just so cool. Especially me, since like we're English readers, like we always get everything a little late. So I knew of the Berserker armor due to like pictures and stuff, but seeing how it actually works, it was just like, oh my god, this is just orgasmic. It was so cool.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I have something to add later to that fight.
Oh, I was gonna say, and just a side note, that there was a ton of shit happening to that fight on top of it, with the witch dying in the tree, like Shriek having to go with Guts because she had nowhere to go, like just so much happening as far as story.
For people listening, can we kind of recall the fight from start to end? Because I'm a little shaky on it myself. It's been a while.
Guts does like a bunch of flips a million times. And
right, but I'm saying, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like Guts and Co are hanging out at the witch's house in the woods, and I think he's there to talk to her and Shirk about ways he can manage the brand or otherwise kind of level the playing field against Apostles and Griffith.
Yeah.
And doesn't Griffith's like little cavalry army show up, and the witch at first has like these clay golems that come out of the ground, and they're like the first line of defense.
Yep.
And they kind of slow the enemy down, but they know that the Apostles are going to destroy these things. And I want to say the witch is doing something in the house, and they have to like defend her so she can complete like a ritual or something. And so Guts has to go out there to help the golems, and it eventually becomes Guts versus all of the Apostles. Yes. And then that turns into Guts versus Grunbeld. God, I can never remember this guy's name.
I think it is Grunbeld.
Yeah. See, well, in the Japanese version, his name is spelled like Garoon Bird, and that's what I think of him. Yeah, it's weird. But so he fights Grunbeld, and then Grunbeld turns into a dragon. That's his like apostle, his final form, right?
Yeah, it's like a diamond dragon.
Yeah, and he tail slaps Guts across the battlefield into the chamber. Or no, I'm sorry. I think he puts the Berserker armor on before the battle because he knows he can't win this fight alone. And then,
I'll stop you there. He does have a little skirmish with Grundle first, without it, because I remember, and I'm a little hazy on these details as well, but I remember him trying to cut Grundle with his sword without the Berserker armor, and it was totally that anime moment of that anime moment of just like, ha ha ha, my armor is too thick for your sword, right? You know? And
okay, so
then I think that's when he hits Guts, and I think he gets sent into the tree, which is where the Berserker armor is. I could be a little mistaken there, but something along those lines.
I know he puts the armor on at a point, and then he gets slapped by Grunbeld's tail after he turns into a dragon. And when Guts walks out of the chamber, the cave, or the tree, whatever he gets knocked into, in the manga, you can see that like both his left arm and left leg are completely broken, like hyperextended, twisted backward. Yeah, it's nasty. And Guts is just limping forward at Grunbeld like nothing is wrong, and then the armor just kind of like snaps his limbs back into position so he can keep fighting.
Yes.
That moment is fucking disgusting and awesome.
Yes, that moment is awesome, because you see literally he draws it so well where just like you say, the arm and leg are just dangling, and then it just snaps into place, and you see all this blood just squirt out of, his armor. Oh, it was beautiful.
For the masochists out there, if you ever play the Japanese PS2 Berserk game, that whole fight is in the game, and that's a fully animated cutscene with sound effects and blood, and it's so gross.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, that actually, I'll let you know, a little spoiler. That was my third on my list of fights. So I'm glad we got to talk about it.
In that old game, do you also cut into Grunbeld and then he tells you how thick his rock candy skin is and you get slapped?
I don't remember, man. I played it through once. At some point, we'll have to do maybe a pod play about that game because I feel like there are a lot of Berserk fans that haven't played it, and it's so fucking awesome to see actual chapters in video game form,
I am one of those people who has not played it.
And I've only played it once, so. But anyway, so that fight, was that yours, Gas? Was that your?
That was my third favorite. Yeah.
Okay. Anything more to say?
Not for me.
I did see Boskin or whatever he is running around in the video game, so I think we got that name right.
Oh right, yeah.
This guy.
This is
I literally watched him run across the screen,
right
and I didn't want to interrupt, but I was like, oh, there he is.
So while he's on the screen, let me just follow up and say, if you've watched the Golden Age trilogy on Netflix, they changed the fight between him and Guts so that Zod is never there to interfere at all. And I don't know why they do this, but the fight basically changes where I don't know if Guts' sword breaks, but he does get unseated from his horse, and he ends up picking like a nearby flagpole up, and he does some funky shit with it where he uses it as a shovel, and he basically kicks up a cloud of dirt in Boscon's face, and that gives Guts the time he needs to wind up his sword and kill Boscon. And it's a cool anime moment, but I don't know why they would have opted to do that over the character building moment with Zod,
Because especially in the movie, they show Zod many times. So it's
do they?
Well, they have the Zod fight in the beginning, and then they have him fighting Skull Knight during the sacrifice.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So it's it's like they're trying to hide that, but they're not. So
right. Why
it's
would
a
you
weird
do this?
decision.
Well, I mean, character building moment, cool shovel scene. It's a tough choice.
Right.
How often do you get a shovel scene in anime?
That is true. That's pretty unique. That's a fair point.
If we continue to watch this scene, I'm sure it'll happen here shortly. But we could probably move on until then.
All right, Mullet. Number 2 favorite fight
All right.
scene.
My second favorite fight, and this one's going to be a little odd because it's also from that video game and the manga, so I've got a couple perspectives on it, is the encounter between Guts and Zod on the hill of the graves of the Band of the Hawk.
Forgot about that one. That's a good one.
Yes. And I think, so to set the stage, this is a scene where I believe Guts' sword has broken, or it's not broken. He has the Dragon Slayer at that point, and it's not totally broken, but it is, whether it's worn down. It's got cracks, and he knows that if he doesn't go get it fixed, he's going to have it, smash like his other one. And so he goes all the way back to, remind me the blacksmith's name.
Gordo?
Gordo?
Yeah.
He goes back to Gordo to be like, hey man, my sword's busted up. And I don't remember if Gordo's already dead at that point, but Ricket is, and he gets Ricket to fix up his sword in place of Gordo. And the Ricket had been there for some time, so he went off and he forged all of these swords and put them in the ground on this hill some ways away from the blacksmith's house to be a grave yard for the Band of the Hawk members that died in the eclipse. So
Very
Guts
poetic.
goes out there. What's that?
It's a very poetic, that moment.
Right? Oh yeah. Guts goes out there, and I believe him and Rickert have a little conversation about what Griffith has done, and that's where Rickert's like, what? Oh my god, and starts to know what Guts knows about Griffith and what he's trying to do. And I think Zod and Griffith just kind of like fly down from the sky in that moment. And I don't really remember what the conversation is between them, but I know Guts, he pretty much goes ape shit and tries to take out Griffith, because this is the first time he's seen Griffith since that little weird staircase eclipse moment way earlier in the Black Swordsman arc. And I think it's their second meeting since the eclipse. So he tries to kill Griffith, and Zod steps in, and they essentially have this really awesome one-on-one duel. And I don't quite remember how it ends. It's some kind of stalemate, and Zod, gets out of there.
I think Griffith is just like, all right, let's leave. And he's like, all right.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, he's kind of like dismissive, and he's just like, yeah. I thought he showed up there initially to, like, in a weird way, pay respects to the band. Like, I don't know why else he would show up there.
Yeah,
I mean, I
too now.
I saw it as him showing up there just to piss off Guts, because I mean, I don't think Griffith gives a damn at all about the Band of the Hawk. I mean, he sacrificed them,
Yeah, it's just like, I'm back, bitch.
And as far as I can tell, he almost doesn't even care that Guts is out there. He had Griffith could quite actually pinpoint Guts' location and send his army after him. And Guts could not stand up to Griffith and that entire army.
Yeah, really the only thing he's done against Griffith is that fight that I was saying with his cavalry. That was the only...
Right.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't care about Guts, then that means that would be the only reason he would go there, is to pay respects, right? Because
I guess what I'm saying is Griffith still takes joy in making Guts' journey, whatever it is, more difficult. And I think him and Zod flying in on the graveyard was like him checking in on Guts.
I think,
at least from my perspective.
Now that we're talking about it, my memories kind of come back. I think he says something about, Griffith said something about wanting to see his old comrades or something, and he knew the grave was there. Something like that.
And then Guts is like, yeah, right, bro.
yeah. Guts is like, you don't even freaking deserve to see these people again or some shit. And side note, since we're talking about Rickett there, I love the part where Rickett just slaps Griffith later on.
Bro, that was my number one fight. You
Oh, no! It's the only time Griffith lost, besides his little Guts.
Right.
What just happened? Blacks out for like 5 minutes. Can't register.
So yeah, to bring it back, in the PS2 game, that fight happens early on in it. You actually get to fight Zod, and if you beat the game, there's a bonus mission where you get to fight Griffith on that same hill, which is not canon, of course, but it was fun fan service to essentially kick Griffith's ass on the graves of all the people he's murdered, in the name of his kingdom. But yeah, pretty memorable and progressive moment in the overall plot on the Hawk's graveyard.
Also, a cool moment about that fight is because Guts' sword is, I believe, being repaired at the time, he just has to use the graveyard swords to fight Zod. So he's just using sword after sword.
No, he has his Dragon Slayer in that fight.
Does he?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I must be thinking of something else then.
I've got the panels in my head. I can.
Okay.
He definitely has it.
For some reason, I remember a fight where Guts keeps picking up swords.
I'm sure that's out there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know, but oh well. Anything else?
Oh, I'm good on that one.
Oh, I was gonna stir up some controversy, and I just wanted to say, in order for the sacrifice of the Band of the Hawk to matter, doesn't he have to care about him?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I'm not a Griffith did nothing wrong apologist. Obviously not. But when he goes to that graveyard, I kind of feel like it's at least a little bit sincere.
I see what you mean, because there are other moments where the God Hand tell a different guy that he can't sacrifice. There's a moment where early on in the Black Swordsman arc where the God Hand gets summoned. I think this is the weird staircase eclipse.
It is.
And this guy tries to sacrifice Guts, but then Void is like, no, he's been claimed already. And then the guy who summoned the God Hand is like, well, the only other person to sacrifice is my daughter, and he's like tearing up over it. And he ends up declining that offer and gets pulled into hell or whatever by all the ghosts of like the dead people that come with the God Hand. But you might be right. They might have to sacrifice someone they actually have feelings for.
Because then it's not a sacrifice. Like if it was like, oh, I sacrificed Jeff Bezos. Like I don't think the God Hand would be like, oh, near and dear to you, Jeff Bezos, except
right. It's weird. Jeff Bezos was in your apartment when the God Hand got summoned, and he's there.
Yeah.
But
honestly, I
don't care about the man.
That's my security system. Actually, is I just brand them really fast if someone breaks into my house, and then I attempt to sacrifice.
Nice.
Not a bad idea.
That's an interesting conversation, though. Or point you bring up is maybe Griffith is not the uncaring character we thought he was. Maybe he's he just takes those emotions and he stuffs them real deep down.
Well, he obviously has some regret. Like I think that right before the eclipse, he's seeing like so long as he makes these sacrifices towards a final goal, he's fine with it because he feels like it's going to mean something. And I think when he's literally broken and has nothing left, he's like, oh God, like all these friends I've already seen die, it was for nothing. And that's when he kind of snaps. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe that'll be the next episode. Ooh, we'll see. But so Jam, second favorite fight?
I don't know if you can. You guys, let me know if you can count this as a fight. But honestly, Guts just going apeshit during the eclipse had like big like Doom vibes, where it's like here's this guy who's just a dude. And everything's falling apart around him, but he is just like using everything in his everything around him to just kill shit. Like, oh, I'm gonna bust a antler off of this guy and then stab his buddy in the head with it.
So cool. And
then he like chops his own arm out, like just all this. So it's not very sophisticated. I just like it because it's a mortal just like spitting in the face of like fate, destiny, causality, all that happy shit. And he's just going ham. Like, he's just popping off.
I would definitely call that a fight, even if it's probably more a struggle. I mean, he kills how many apostles and little demon minions in that fight? It's like a couple dozen, maybe?
Yeah. Where most people struggle against one.
I don't know if he actually kills any of them. I mean, he damages some. But I don't know if he actually kills them.
That's fair.
But yeah, that I agree. That counts as a fight. That was a badass moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like. Oh,
go ahead. Okay, it's not just that it's badass, but it expresses. It's a callback to when the Skull Knight says you need to struggle and not stop. And when the Skull Knight told him that, Guts has no idea what he's talking about. I don't even know if in that fight Guts remembers what was said to him by the Skull Knight,
Mm-hmm.
But it's just an amazing example of how unwilling to die Guts is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and also a callback to the Dark Swordsman arc that you start the manga with, because now you understand like. That's how he loses his arm. Like, that's how he loses his eye. Like, whoa.
That's how he gets branded.
Literally, that whole fight explains all of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Jem.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I think it's cool too that you like see some of the apostles that he kills earlier or later, like they make an appearance there, and so it's like, oh, like you think back and you're like, oh, he intentionally like tracked some of these apostles down that he didn't kill the shit out of earlier, and so he's not just he's in a blind rage, but he like remembers a good chunk of this, and he acts on those memories later on.
Yep.
True.
Excellent storytelling, man.
I actually just saw something in the Berserk group that I'm in on Facebook about that. It was just that moment where Casca's like, "Don't watch," and then it just shows Guts pinned down with his eyes wide open, like he's fucking watching, you know. Just cool shit.
So, side note, just because you've reminded me of it, there's a very similar scene in the comic book The Crow, where, if you guys are familiar with that story, where something tragic happens to the two main characters, and the spirit of the crow is telling the protagonist, Eric Draven, don't watch, don't look at it. And of course he does. He can't look away, you know? And so just something very similar that sears a horrible memory inside the mind of the protagonist, and that is, you know, what pushes them forward to do what they do, like Guts.
I do remember that now that you mention it.
Have you read that comic?
No, but they do it in the movie too.
Oh,
like
do
the
they?
very beginning in the movie, I'm pretty sure.
I haven't seen the movie in forever, but had to just drop that as a hardcore Crow fan.
Very nice.
So what's that, fight number 2 for you?
Yes.
Yeah, anything else before we move on?
No, just big Doom energy.
Yes, I love Doom.
Big Doom energy. Yeah. Dude, somebody needs to take like footage from the games or the anime and put it over the 2016 Doom music.
Soundtrack, yes. When that Doom music hits, yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my second favorite fight is we just talked about it. The fight with that slug apostle, I don't remember his name. But you kept talking about the staircase eclipse moment.
Mm-hmm. That guy.
Yeah, that guy. Because first off, the fight's badass. Because it's the last apostle in the Black Swordsman arc. And it's also the, like, first apostle to give Guts some real trouble. I mean, there's moments in the other ones. Like the moment with the butterfly stabbing him through the arm and taking him in the air. That was like, holy shit. But there was a lot of moments against the slug where it's like, yeah, Guts is kind of getting his ass kicked here. And
he gets horribly wounded to the point where you're like, he's gonna die. You know?
Right. And he like barely wins that fight. But he does win. And the reason why it's my second favorite is actually what happens after, which is that staircase eclipse moment that you talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, it's really cool that they actually, well, first, it's your first look into the God Hand. You're just like, this is crazy. What is this?
Yeah, I have this guy's name. The Slug Count.
The Slug Count. Okay.
Yeah.
Weird
or
that
the
his mom
Count.
named him that.
Yeah, right? It's like she knew.
Apparently, I just wikied the list of the apostles because I'm like, we got to figure out this guy's name. And apparently he's just the Count or the Slug Count.
The Count, yeah, okay. Fair enough. But that eclipse moment is just so cool because we already talked about how the Slug's like, oh, sacrifice my daughter. And they're like, you don't give a shit about her. Like, no, this isn't how this works. Fuck off. And then he gets sucked into hell, which is a cool look at hell as well. And then seeing Griffith for the first time and Guts' reaction to that. Because you've seen Guts rage at this point.
Oh, yeah.
But you haven't seen Guts rage, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And then just that he, like, gets instantly stopped by Griffith. And again, first moment meeting these God Hands, you were realizing, holy shit, these are, like, we already thought he was fighting powerful dudes. And then there's these guys? Like, what? And then Griffith just, like, smirks at him. He always has that smirk on, but stops Guts. And Guts is coming at him with, like, his knife or something. It's not even his sword. And, but then you just see Guts slowly inch closer. And then Griffith is like, nope, begone. And then throws him out of the warp or whatever you want to call that place.
Yeah.
That was just super cool.
Yeah, that entire, I mean, that's your setup that you have early on in the story that makes the audience go, what the fuck is going on? I have to know more about what the fuck is going on.
Exactly.
Who's the bird guy? What is he all about?
Who's this bird guy? And Why is Guts screaming? And oh my god, he's got telekinesis powers. What the shit?
Yeah.
Is that when we first see the little goopy baby thing on the floor too?
No,
You mean, like,
actually.
this thing?
I mean, if you want to get scientific.
So actually, no, it's not, because I just restarted watching it, and to my surprise, the goopy baby thing was in the very first thing. The very first. It wasn't like a chapter. It was kind of like a whole book, because they did the whole snake fight, but it's like 60 pages or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, the baby thing was in that chapter. So first moment.
It has been a while, so I was just trying to remember.
Yeah, I didn't remember it either until I literally read it like a week ago.
Guts has nightmares about that thing in the very city where he ends up fighting the Count, I believe.
Here's that Zod fight. Oh wait, no it's not. Wait, what is this fight?
Oh, this is the "Hey, you belong to me" fight.
No. Oh, you're right. You're right. I saw the snow and got ahead of myself.
Wait a minute.
No,
What?
James is right.
Is this the Doldry fight where they break up?
Yeah, I was watching the subtitles and everything.
Okay.
Oh, but Griffith is not. He's wearing armor that he's not actually wearing in the manga. So that's
Same
why I
with
was
Guts.
confused.
Yeah.
I thought this was the battle on the hill, the graveyard, because it's winter.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But then no, James right.
Damn.
Oh yeah, and there's a chest right there, just like in the manga.
Yeah, gave Guts health.
Yeah, Griffith's using Kaioken times 5. It's all coming together.
So, I almost picked this fight quotation marks as one of my options, but it's not really a fight. It's there's a single exchange of swords, and possibly the only time Guts is ever shown restraining himself is when he doesn't let his sword fall right through Griffith's shoulder and cleave him in two.
Yeah,
it's very powerful. It's
like have you ever thought about that? That he actually could have killed Griffith that day.
Yeah.
But I mean, he clearly had no intention to. He didn't want to kill him.
Yeah.
God, how different the story would be. There wouldn't be a story.
Yeah, it would just end there.
Godham would be like, well, shit, we need to pick another one.
Well, if you think about it, though, like, there's other things, like, the Kushin invasion still probably would have happened. Like...
Yeah, true.
So instead of Griffith, chumming around, we'd have Guts running around as society falls apart around him.
And just killing things, being just an awesome soldier. Going back to his mercenary days, pretty much.
Also, I mean, if he had killed Griffith here, him and Casca probably wouldn't have hooked up later. You know?
That's true. That's the important
would have been
part.
like, I got some issues with you, dude.
I forgot all those people are off to the side.
Yep.
Just watching, yeah.
Guts, what the hell?
All right, are we on to fight 3 now?
Our favorite fight of the entire series. Go ahead, Mullet.
Okay, well, I'm not saying this is my favorite fight of the entire series, but since you already picked the one with Grunbeld and the Berserker armor, I had to panic search a fight that I like a lot. And
if you pick mine, I'm gonna scream.
Okay, well, maybe. And I already know Gas doesn't like this fight. I really love the entire exchange between Guts and Rosine, who is the Butterfly Apostle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, whatever, dude. Well, I like that whole part of the story because there's actually like a tiny bit of like detective work from Guts in the town where he's like talking to people about her, and he tries to like lure her out and talk to some kids because she's stealing children and trying to make them like into little demons with her.
Mm-hmm.
But then the actual fight in the forest against Rosine and her like insect monsters, these 2 armored insects that are like gigantic, not quite as big as Grunbeld's dragon form, but something like that. And I remember Guts has this problem where they have armor so thick he can't actually hit them and kill them with the Dragon Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
So he ends up like blasting one with his cannon, and then he uses the momentum from the cannon blast to spin 360, and that extra force gives the Dragon Slayer the momentum it needs to cleave another one in half. And then shortly after that, he actually gets to the Rosine fight. And I remember she's like, if he hits her once, she's dead. She's tiny. She's, she flies basically. And he or she grabs Guts and like lifts him up into the sky. And when I was reading this, I'm like, okay, how the fuck is Guts gonna get out of this one alive? Because if he falls, he falls. Like, I get it, he's superhuman, but there's a limit here. And then while she's got him lifted up, you see there's like this cutaway shot, drawing rather, of her like firing some kind of spiky projectile or appendage, and you see the silhouette of the spike go right through Guts' head. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? You turn the next page, and she stabbed him through the cheeks, and he had opened his mouth, so he then just bites down on this tendrily appendage of hers that's in his mouth and like snaps it off with his teeth. And now he has 2 holes in his cheeks. And then I think he ends up like kind of forcing her down and glides off of her and falls or something. Clearly he lives, but just the immense ability for Miura to constantly make you go, how is Guts going to get out of this? How is Guts going to get out of this? Is, in like every fight. And that was one of those moments where I'm like, how, what the hell? So, yeah.
So I will admit, I like the fight with the insects. At first I was like, really? He's fighting insects? Come on. Really? But then it was pretty cool.
Some other stuff he fights, man. The insects are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the skeletons was definitely like really? Skeletons? Like, what are we, level 1 now? But then...
Dude, disrespecting Skeleton Knight, and he's right on screen.
Right.
That's different skeleton. That's like King of the Skeletons, okay? But
it's the Skeleton Knight.
Getting chased in air is cool too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That whole arc I feel like was the weakest of the Dark Swordsman fights, and I didn't like the backstory as much as the others. It's not a bad fight by any means, but it's just my least favorite of the Dark Swordsman apostles.
Yeah, Mullet, your fight's shit. Anyway.
Actually, wait, I have one more thing to add here that I forgot about. So, correct me if I'm wrong, the Holy Iron Chain Knights are the knights that Farnus was a part of, right?
Yes.
So, Rosine, turns those children from the village into little demon spawn, and when she gets killed, all those demon spawn revert back to normal children form.
Oh, I think they do that even just when they die too.
Right. So my point is, there's a bunch of dead kids in the forest that look like they've been brutalized, right? By a giant slab of iron. And the Holy Iron Chain Knights see this. And then they see Guts. And they put 2 and 2 together that someone with that weapon did that to those bodies. And they're like, oh man, this dude is bad. And that's like one of the reasons they initially go after him and try to capture him,
Was that? I remember them seeing the aftermath of the eclipse and being like, what the hell happened here? But I don't remember that.
Well, according to this wiki entry, that happens.
Okay.
and I think part of it too is when he lures the little demon elf children into that like burning building or whatever, and then he like turns around and they've reverted back to their human form, and it's like, oh, that's just a building full of charred up children now. Yeah, and so the village, like local people are probably like, that guy burned our children who went missing.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm
that
a dumb peasant. Yeah, fuck that guy. Although I do want to say, like, people are like, oh, lost children are so edgy and stuff. I just laughed at like how over the top and like tragic it was. Like,
right. It went beyond the point of
about me.
The ridiculousness.
Yeah, I was just like, that's just Guts just looks behind him like, oops. There should be like a laugh track playing. Like, yeah, it's not like he could have not done it, but also just like, that's just a bunch of kids in a shed on fire. Oh well.
It's like that. That's that moment where you need that meme where it's just like shows the credits afterwards.
Let's put a wrap on this.
Yeah.
I will say though, like directly related to the fight though, Mullet, like that's another fight where I feel kind of bad for who Guts is fighting against. So like, part of me was like, that's still like a kid who ran away, and I kind of don't want Guts to brutally chop her in half. But I mean, what she did, like she couldn't just be allowed to continue doing it. So
exactly.
There's some emotional weight there.
Mm-hmm. Anytime you can put emotional weight into a fight, it's way better.
All right, so Jan, it is your turn. Favorite fight?
Oh boy. I'll echo Mullet here, but this might not be my favorite fight, but I definitely I picked it out as one that jumped into my brain right away, and immediately contradicting what I had just said about emotional weight. I was just like, what made me
cool?
Yeah. What one just made me like yell out loud while I was reading it, and it was when Guts was riding on Zod. And they were just flying around killing shit. And I was just like, yeah! Like, they're best friends! They're just killing stuff! There's lightning! And, yeah. So, like, my previous two fights are about, like, emotions and, I don't want this character to die. This one, it was honestly just, like, it's a crossover episode. The two guys that hate each other have to work together. And
yeah, it kind of was.
Yeah, and so like in a story where there is like so many of these fights, there's like stupid things like context and characters caring about things. I was just like, I just want to see some big dumb shit happen, and that fight just tickled my lizard brain.
So no, go ahead, finish.
Oh no, that's basically it. There's no deep insight here. I just like to see big sword man ride on a fuzzy gargoyle boy.
So funny thing, when I saw that, have you guys ever seen Never Ending Story?
Yeah.
No, yeah. I'm not.
I just know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, that song needs to be put on that scene. If anyone knows that song, they reference it a lot. There's a Family Guy reference to it.
Yeah, so it's just a weird moment of whimsy.
It is, and I don't have deep context to add to it, like you said, but it did spark within me the idea that I mean, I'm sure we've all asked ourselves this now and again: is how is Guts going to kill Griffith one day? And that fight just makes me really hope that whatever final climactic end there is between Guts and Griffith, I hope Zod works with Guts in a way. Because there's a part of me that thinks Zod really doesn't enjoy being Griffith's bitch. And because Griffith did kind of just show up, cut his horn off, he's like, hey, you're working for me now, you know?
Yeah.
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 So yeah, that scene makes me think there's going to be more cooperation between them at some point.
I don't know if I agree with that. It would just greatly depend on how they do that, on how Guts teams up. But I could see it being pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Zod just has that singular desire to I need to fight Guts some more. I don't know how you leverage that into him disobeying Griffith. Although there's precedence for apostles disobeying him. So if anyone's going to disobey Griffith, I guess it would be him.
Yeah,
Sure.
Zod clearly won't disobey the God Hand, because before Griffith is a member of the God Hand, he's very much he kills wild, and he's all about making sure that fate happens the way they envision it and everything. But I just don't see him serving another person to the extent that Griffith is making him do that,
I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got an independent streak.
Mm-hmm. Well, any more about the Zod Guts team up?
I don't think it's ever going to happen again because,
Oh.
I feel like that was a moment of necessity. Were they fighting? Who the hell were they even fighting during that? It wasn't Ganishka, was it? It wasn't the.
Yeah, it was.
It was
Yeah, he was the fire, the big like pillar of fire, right?
Yes.
Fog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Guts got like bitch slapped into Zod and they crashed near one another, or like Guts landed on top of Zod and Guts was like sword on Zod's throat and he's like, "Hey, fly me, motherfucker."
Yeah.
I want to ride.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember because I forgot that Ganishka turned into that big pillar too. I was just remembering when he got really big, but I was like, no, that was Griffith. But okay, yeah, I remember it perfectly now.
Honorable mention. Speaking of Ganeshka, when Griffith fights him and Ganeshka's like, "You look how big I am," and Griffith's just like, whoosh, "Bye."
Yeah. Doesn't matter to me, bro.
Yeah. But by the way, super late for me to say this, but I totally forgot. The reason why I'm skipping a lot of the movie cinematics is for copyright copyright reasons. So yeah, sorry guys. It's just something has to be done.
Yeah, that first video did not go over well with YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I transformed them enough that it should be fine, but it's just an annoying thing to do. And I have to transform them so much that it's like, you're not going to be able to watch them anyways.
Yeah.
So let's just skip them, you know?
So let's just shamelessly...
soon, and I know you did that just to frustrate me, but whatever.
I heard a slight reaction from you.
Yeah, bitch.
I was gonna say, just let's plug the movies. If you guys haven't watched the Berserk movies yet, all of the cutscenes in this game are just ripped from those films, so you're not getting anything new in the game here.
Mostly cutscenes, but yes, the movies are great. So, to wrap it up, my favorite battle, which I'm kind of surprised, I was a little worried you guys were gonna bring it up first.
Oh.
It is the Guts fight, Golden Age, against the 100 Men.
Oh, the 100-man Slayer fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that one was
awesome.
too obvious, so I didn't pick it.
It's so good though, and every time you watch, every version of it is like, it just is good. I don't even have a favorite version. I like all of them. Because in the manga and the 90s anime, he fights that dude with the mace, and then like the flail with the mace on it.
And he like bounces the flail back into the guy's face.
Yeah, he like baseball hits it right back at him. That was sweet. And then after that, he fights 100 men. And this is like when he's pretty young. He's like 15 years old, or I think he's a little older, like 17. But
no, he's in his adult form.
Adult form. Not his final form.
He's not Kid Guts anymore. He's like 18, 19, something.
Yeah, he's
not refrigerator yet, though.
No,
he's not a refrigerator yet. He's just a cooler box.
Yeah, he's a mini fridge. Yeah.
How strong are your anime protagonists? Judge them based on size of cooling device.
Yeah. But that fight, it's just so cool, especially like at the end where there's dead bodies everywhere, and at first it looks like Guts is among the dead bodies, and even like literally everyone thinks he's dead, and Casca's like crying and shaking him, and then he's like, "Stop, that hurts."
And then he's like, "Fake out, I knew you loved me."
Yeah, right?
I mean, he doesn't say that, but yeah.
Oh, man.
He's like, "It hurts, just let me sleep."
Yeah. But that was just, especially since that fight literally lasts all night, like it's nighttime, and then they find him in the morning, and also what Casca running away and that everything that happened before that whole part in the manga is just fucking sweet, you know.
So I have a favorite little moment in the '97 version of that fight, and bear with me here. So there's that one soldier that chases Casca and tries to assault her, and I think Casca stabs him in the eye, and he screams pretty horribly because there's now a knife in his eye, right? But
I think it was a stick, wasn't it? Like a stick she found too.
You're right. It was a stick, I think, at least in the '97 version, and so that unfortunately doesn't stop him. It just enrages him more. So he chases her down. He gets her on the ground. He's starting to pull her armor off when Judo shows up and throws a dagger in his other eye.
Yeah.
Not only is the guy blind and probably dead, but in the '97 show in particular, the scream he gives off is just hilarious. And you hear his scream and you're like, yeah, you deserve that. Whatever you're feeling right now, you deserve all of that.
Yes, very true. Very true.
I did want to add that it's great that that's the only time Guts has to spend all night fighting, and I like that he gets a good night's rest ever since.
Yeah, right. That was his last good night rest.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah. He sleeps soundly when he's put a number of bodies on the ground.
Yes.
Otherwise, he has bad dreams. Reminds him of his mercenary days when he was 8.
Oh my god.
Well, any honorable mentions before we wrap it up here? Anything
Oh man,
else
I
to
could
say?
basically say so much. The slug count. He was a runner-up for me.
Nice.
There's also that fight in the village that's assaulted by the trolls. I mean, there's that entire sequence, plus Guts fighting like that ogre and the weird water horse demon thing. The Kelpie, yeah. That whole sequence was on my list. There's the Slan fight in the forest.
That is really cool.
But I don't really remember much about it. I don't remember why she did that, other than maybe she's kind of in love with Guts in her own fucked up way.
Yeah, I just
think
remember.
love is a strong word.
Yeah, I just remember
She loves
Slan
to
being constantly
experience
turned
it.
on.
Yeah. Horniness 24/7 is Slan.
Yeah. How about you, Jam? Any honorable mentions, real quick?
I know we joked about it, but honestly, the slap, it's like a mental battle where I just get so sick of everyone being like, wow, Griffith, great idea. You're so great all the time, nonstop.
Oh, all the people in his
and
kingdom.
then he just gets fucking blasted across the face. And I think he may have genuinely been like, what?
Yeah.
After he
Like
gets slapped.
the guy, the squint meme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just been so used to everything falling in line perfectly, and now he's just been told to go fuck himself.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of lost that. If you view it as him trying to battle for everybody's hearts and minds, he finally lost somebody there.
Yeah.
And that was really refreshing.
And also, I was also like, what? I did not expect that from Rickett at all.
No,
That
you
was
thought
surprising.
Rickett was gonna die in that moment,
Yeah, or something. Because before that, he was kind of happy to see Griffith.
Mm-hmm. But then he remembered everything that Guts told him, and he saw Falconia, and he was like, "Oh my God, he's completely right."
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever have an episode of this about Falconia and all that stuff, I have some very strong feelings about it, but I'll
Yeah,
reel those in for now.
I'm down. I don't want to start another mission, but quick honorable mentions. You always said the fight with Boscone. That's a really good one.
that's not an honorable mention. That was my number one.
Yeah, honorable mention for me, but that was definitely a top one. The Zod fight, the first Zod fight was just top notch. Although another obvious choice. Yeah, there's so many good fights. I would say a contender for my number one would have been the Moose Goose fight, because I love Conviction Arc in that. Not only
Which
the fight
fight?
with against Moose Goose, the
flat-faced guy.
Dude, that's awesome.
Oh my God, you just reminded me of when Guts fights his 4 BDSM warriors, the fucking crazy guys
I
in their
love that
leather
fight, too.
helmets and shit.
And they
Yeah,
fight
man.
with torture devices, dude. Like, so cool.
Yeah.
Their
whole-
backstory was cool too.
Oh my god, that whole like, it's just so chaotic. He's just like flying around, belching fire on people, and
Yeah,
I love how wacky it is.
I love how he keeps up his act throughout the whole time. Like, he's literally in demon form. And he's like, "Hey, don't worry. Like, God gave this form to me. I'm here to save you people." And they're like, "Okay." And then there's Guts. Fuck you. You know. I love that arc.
Yep. You're making me really want to reread the manga.
I already started.
Nice.
Yep. But I think that's it. Let's wrap this up, guys. Again, we are with Mullet Wesker. He's my partner in this PodPlay, and special guest Professor Jam. Check them both out. Twitch.tv/MulletWesker and then Twitch.tv/Professor Jam. And that's it. If you guys want to add to the conversation, feel free. Talk in the comments. We will respond. We love hearing your ideas and thoughts. But yeah, until next time, guys. You guys got anything to say before we wrap up?
Always be struggling.
Always be struggling.
Slap people who disagree with you.
Perfect. All right, guys. See you later. Have a good one.